first, you're to be commended for starting an organic garden on the agriculture building lawns. And your Deputy Secretary Merrigan has been talking with schools in terms of starting organic gardens there. The teachers all love the idea and yet feel like, how in the world are we going to fit this into the curriculum? What would you think of nature-based after-school clubs for youth, administered by 4-H county extension programs and administered through a grant for this? Would keep our youth off the couches and in nature, and also could provide good snacks and things in that order, and supervision too.
That's a very interesting concept. You know, so folks may say, well, why is that necessary? You know, I mean, apart from what you just said. Well, here's why I think it's necessary. It goes back to this point of making a connection for people between their food and how difficult it is. There is no more difficult calling in the world than farming. I mean, if you think about it, you don't have much control over input costs. You have no control over the weather. And, you know, a lot of times you don't have control over the market. You know, it's a tough business. And the rest of us who aren't in that business just simply take the benefits of it and just take them for granted. So if you've got youngsters who are actually, in a very small way, experiencing that, there's a greater appreciation and understanding. Great story. I think this is a great idea, in addition to your idea. You know, we give kids a lot of gifts. We give them at confirmation and first communion and, you know, graduating from 8th grade and 12th grade. And, you know, why not give kids the gift of a plant or seeds? So I was at a friend's house the other day, and he was telling me about his 7-year-old. They did this last year. They gave him a tomato plant. So he's 6. So the kid was excited. You know, he watered it every day, and he was watching it. And his father came home one day, and the youngster was really excited. He says, Dad, he says, this is great. He says, I picked off all the flowers on the tomato plant so the tomatoes had places to grow. Lesson learned. Not much of a yield that year. But this year, he's not picking the flowers. It's a way of making that connection. So I think that we're going to take that idea back. That's a very positive idea. You know, we appreciate the First Lady's leadership on this. You know, she's got a garden, and we have a competition. I'm always going to lose, no matter how productive our garden is. But it is a good thing. And you know, her garden also has pollinators, which is another important consideration. We just don't really appreciate what bees do in this world, and it's another opportunity for us. And then the last point I would make is, you know, it's funny how we teach history. Think about this. You got to go to school. You teach history. How do you know? A lot of it's based on wars. You know, pre-Revolutionary War, Revolutionary War, pre-Civil War, Civil War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam. Why don't we teach history based on food? Anybody thought about that? The changes in food. If you look at plates, just plates. I was noticing at this White House the other day, and my wife has got some Flow Blue, a collection of Flow Blue. And we bring them out at Thanksgiving every year, and they're a lot smaller than the dinner plates we normally use, which tells me our portion sizes are a lot bigger than they used to be. And maybe that's why 35% of our kids today are either overweight or at risk of being overweight. And we have an onset of type 2 diabetes that could be prevented and is just a disaster waiting to happen. Good point. I've written it down. It's a very good point.